Hi, Joey. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. We just had your very, very amazing daughter, Hilary Yip, on, and we would love to know, who the mother is behind this amazing person and what your life is and the influences that have been on your life. So I thought to start from the very beginning, which is really your childhood. And could you share anything that's significant that molded you to be the person that you are today?
Right. First of all, thank you for having me. And my childhood, I would say my upbringing was pretty grassroots. And yeah, we didn't have much when we were young. And I think for my academic studying, especially, it's pretty much all myself. My parents are very busy, were busy working and with their own, have to, put food on the table, so to speak. So I have to take care of myself, and they didn't really have much time paying attention to, unlike what we're doing, unlike parents these days that we kind of structure everything, so worried about everything about the kids, their educations and what to do, all the extracurriculums. But at my time, there wasn't anything actually. So I have to plan for my own. And when I think the pivotal moment for me was when I have to decide on whether which secondary school do I have to go to? Should I go to? Because I was from the local system where they just normally everybody at that area where I study for primary school will opt for the same school, which is at the same area. So everybody is kind of, knowing each other. And I was a pretty adventurous person. And I remember at my tender age, kind of like 11, I went downstairs to a local bookstore to choose a book that says good schools in Hong Kong, that kind of thing. And I went through that book and scoured through which should I go to opt for and choose different things. So I told my mom that I want to choose different schools instead of the local default choice. And my mom didn't oppose to my weird suggestions. So I chose three different schools totally out of that area. And I remembered I got accepted for my second choice, which was very far away from my local area. Which was in Stanley. I don't know whether you
Not
know
too familiar, but
Hong Kong that well.
how far was it
It
from
was
you?
kind of like back then. It took me 1.5 hours to
Oh,
have to take the subway and then bus all the way to that school every morning. I remember I needed to leave home at 6 o'clock in the morning, where it was still dark.
wow.
But I loved it. I loved it. Every morning, the bus journey was so nice because it went past a beach, like it was a long bus journey, but it was pretty refreshing. And it was the biggest school in Hong Kong. I think it still is the biggest school in Hong Kong. It was a very different type of experience.
Yeah.
And
And what
that changed. It pretty much changed my my studying and my way of seeing things and my confidence of making my own choice as well.
Yeah. So how exactly did it change the way that you saw the world? And
I think from that point on, I kind of made my own decisions and I relied on myself a lot more. And also, because that school is very different from the local schools that we went to, and it requires a lot more language requirements is a lot more higher. It's higher. For example, my English, I have to really work towards it because I couldn't. Although in Hong Kong everybody has to learn English, but the level was pretty, not up to the standard for local schools. A lot of the local schools, you couldn't even conduct a proper conversation with a foreigner. No way. So when I went to that secondary school, I need to work really hard. And then on the third year, I moved to another school, which was one of the best in Hong Kong. It's a girls' school. And it was even more demanding. And I remembered it was so tough that at one point I almost asked my mom to help me drop back off to the original school, because it was just very, very competitive. And I remember I have to totally just drop Chinese and work so hard to get even past my just to the basic level of the requirement of that school. But through those hard time, I was able to get to where I am right now. So thinking back, I'm grateful, for the tough time.
So what was it that led you to decide to join the Hong Kong Police Force? Because I understand you were there for 12 years and you were the senior
Yeah.
inspector of police as well.
Yes. I was in the UK when I was studying A-levels. And when I went back to Hong Kong, even before going to uni, actually, before I went to uni, that year when I was in Hong Kong, I was kind of just like trying, because my dad was a police. And it was kind of like a fun thing to do, just try to get into the force as an inspector.
Yeah.
Because there's two rank that you can apply, either the police constable, the basic level, or the inspector level.
What's
Normally,
the
they will only take, it was like three ranks, 4 ranks higher.
So what was the test?
It's like the officer level,
Right.
I don't know whether you know the military, like kind of
No.
the kind of ranking.
Do you mind sharing a bit about the ranking? I don't really know.
The most basic is the constable, police constable, where you see all the uniform officers around. And then they have their seniors like sergeant, police, station sergeant. But they are all like rank and files. They are the people who work do all the groundworks, so to speak. And then the officers level are inspectors. They are the management levels. So when you apply to the police force, you can either join as a constable or as the first rank of the management level, the inspector.
Yeah. So I assume that you were an inspector.
Yeah, I tried that and I got in, which was I think I was the last. I was the last one to be accepted as a person without a degree. So wow. Then I was thinking, well, since so many people have got in after getting a degree, and I got in now, why don't you just take it? So I got in as the inspector when I was 20 years old.
Wow. And what was it like? Do you remember?
I think I was just a kid, honestly, and it was fun. It was this 9 months training was fun. You got paid to receive training. You go to Outward Bound for a month. And you have all those legal training, all these things, and everything's new to me. I loved it. And my interest actually was criminal investigation. No, who doesn't like it, right? You watch all those movies and all the excitement, and you want to be a detective, that kind of thing. And I pursue that way. I have always been a detective.
Yeah.
That 12 years. And in between, you have asked me before. Yes, I joined the bomb disposal officer as my secondary duty, just to challenge myself.
Yeah. What was that like being a bomb disposal officer?
It was just so fun, and then because it's totally different, and it just makes you feel like you want to take up different things and as a challenge. I joined and I applied to the bomb disposal when I was 26, 27. So I was already in the force for like 6-7 years. Things kind of like, you've seen a lot and then you want to try different things. And that came their flyer asking around, and then ask inspectors to try to join them to take up the secondary duties. Back then, it was very few people. They are very selective, honestly. At my time, after I being accepted, there were only 12. There were only 12 from disposal secondary duty officers. And I remember the year before they accepted their first female bomb disposal officer. So I was thinking, oh, so they took female now. I can try. That's why I tried.
Yeah. And what was life like as a bomb disposal officer? I mean, do you get called out to the field a lot, or like what does it look like?
And you have to go through that very tough selective process first. It was a 7 weeks selection process. I remember they took in like how many? Oh, like 12, 15 officers at the beginning, and they only accepted three at the end. Yeah. Me and then two more, and the second one also two female officers.
Wow.
We were best buddies even now.
Yeah. And was it a
And
dangerous role?
it can be, but I appreciate so much of the training because the nature of it, you have to deal with bombs, right? You have to be super cautious, and you don't have much time to think too long, and you can't go back. That and the training we received, it helps me, it's kind of like a lifelong thing. The way they have a standard way of procedures, which I use till now on my decision making.
Yeah. Is it okay for you to share what those procedures are that we could apply in our own lives?
Yeah. Oh yeah. First of all, like it's useful even for anyone to apply on any situations. It's kind of like, first you have to oversee, you have to take the situations, you have to look for the whole situations, and then you have to think through the options, what options you have. We must come up with 5 options, no matter how difficult it is. Because the reason being was they don't want you to jump to the conclusion. They don't want you to just find one solution and go ahead. Maybe you were wrong. So you have to come up with 5 solutions, 5 options. And then you have to take the worst one out until you came up with that is the way they trained you. You have to do this every single time. We keep on doing all the exercise. They will keep asking you, drilling you until you have 5 options.
Wow. Do you have any
So that was how you do it. And then you have to have a mental one. Sorry,
you broke up. Hello?
Yes. After you have the options, you have to they call it a mental run through. You have to go through the whole thing in your mind on how to approach that situations, because we're talking about a bomb. You can't go back and forth. You only have one shot to go. Then you have to go through it in your mind. You have to practice on the spot before you approach. All these things that comes up, it helps you when you are dealing with a problem in hand, I would say.
Yeah. And are there any particular moments that like impacted you significantly from your time in the force?
And you're talking about during...
Yeah, just during like any particular moment that like you were touched by or just like left a big impact on you.
I think apart from having come up with options, I would say the problem solving way of approach issues, it helps me totally change me. As a person growing up in my 20s, you whine a lot, you complain a lot, why don't I have a promotion? All these people, they're not working well, they just polishing the shoes and they got promoted, and I have all this, all this. But then after the training, they just have to focus on dealing with things that you can control. Yeah. Putting your minds on the solution, on how to approach the problem. You just have to totally get rid of all the rubbish, and you can't complain. You have no one to complain to. And that helped me a lot. I think, I don't know when, I don't have a particular moment, but gradually I don't complain, and I don't want to get close to any people who like to complain.
Yeah, fair enough. And I understand that it was a very, very stressful job, and you were also balancing it with young kids. So how did you do that?
Yes, actually that was one of the reasons I left the police force, because it was really tough. I have to say, work-life balance, there's no such thing. You have to make a choice. You have to make some kind of sacrifice. And I remember, and I think I told this story many times also. When I was having my second kid, Alexis, I was in a very demanding job where there was no one apart from me. I was the the one with lowest rank, and my head boss was one of the top guy on criminal investigation. There were only 8 of us on the floor, and I was the one with the lowest rank. So I have a lot to handle, and I was pregnant with my second child. But that was a very good post that would help you, climb the corporate ladder. So I remembered at one day, I was like 3-4 months pregnant, and I have signs of I have blood, and I have to rush to the doctor, and there was early kind of miscarriage. I may. So the doctor said you have to take leave for a month. I don't know how could I say that. I just told the doctor right out saying no. I can only take 1 week maximum. I just say no to the doctor. No, I can only take 1 week off. And the doctor said, what? And I took 1 week off, and I took all my work back home, and I called my boss constantly, telling them that I'm available. It was just work just consumed me. I couldn't think of anything but work to make sure I got the thing done. Nothing undermined me as a person working on par with my colleagues. And I remember my husband was really stressed. He was even more stressed than I was. And he was like, this is just crazy. There's just no way. During that time, Hillary was like 2 years old. She was 2 years old. And I couldn't attend much of her school's meetings, the cooking mom thing. I was never there. And my husband normally will be there. And I felt bad on that. But at that time, I was just so into my work. And it couldn't last longer, And my husband and I had back and forth all these kind of conversations, and at the end I decided, it's just not worth keep on doing it that way, because it is hard to describe. It's a never ending. Even you get one promotion, if you want to get the second one, you have to work that way too. You have to outwork other people. In order to, as a female, I have it as well, in a police force where most 80% of them are men, and you have to show that nothing will undermine you as a female, as a mom, or whatever. So it is hard, it is tough, and I don't want to live in that kind of mode throughout my life until I'm 55. So it was at that point I decided, when I was 33, I think, to quit the force and try something else.
And was it scary to hand in your resignation letter?
It was a big decision, but I made it one night, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I just want to make sure my husband's happy about it. And I was lucky to have a very good partner who always supports me.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's not the kind of person who regrets any decisions we've made. And for that, I'm grateful. And he gave me the confidence to do whatever I think is the right thing to do.
So before we move to the next part, I just wanted to ask this again. Is there any particular personal story in your time in the force that stood out to you? And maybe you were interacting with someone on the streets, like anything that was personal but impacted you?
Yes, it did. There are many, but one small story came to me all the time. It was a very small story, but it affected me on how I see most things, actually. I remember when I was just a junior inspectors, where we have to patrol on the streets all the time. I bumped into couple in those love hotel, a very old man and a very young girl, a young female, young woman from mainland China. She didn't have any identity document. So we immediately it is just some day-to-day thing that you will jump into conclusion that she must be an illegal immigrant as a prostitute in Hong Kong, you know. So she gave me a very weird story about she really had an identity, but she lost it, and she didn't want to get. She had a family in Hong Kong, but she was, you know, not in a good relationship with them. That's why she headed out and met this man. It just didn't seem right to me. It didn't seem logical. The most logical thing is what we have been seeing all the time, right? So we just arrested her, disregard her story, and sent her to court. The next day, things came back to us and things got verified. Everything she said was right. So the thing that came to us that was so right, that has to be the story, was not the case. And that small thing, that small story actually changed my mind of seeing things. No matter how reasonable I think that thing may be, I always verify it. You always have to verify it. Don't take it as it is.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that story. It's very powerful. No, it's very like important for us all to remember as well. We can't just go along with our own assumptions and think that's the right one. Yeah. So you handed your resignation, and I understand you just didn't go home and just lay there on bed and do nothing. You went and you started an online children's bookstore. How did that even begin? Like, what was the rationale behind that?
I'm always a book person since I was a little girl.
Like Hillary.
And of course, when you have kids, you know, these things consume your mind. You know, what should I do to, you know, that's best for my kids, you know. Book is the very first thing that came to my mind. And I know that this is the thing that if I instill into them to have this habit, to have this love for books, they are pretty much set. So this is the first thing we do, you know, just read. Even before she was born, you know, we were reading books to her and the first day when she was on the crib, you know, we were just reading, chatting, and it was even, I would say, not just for her, it's for us too, you know. It feels like you are doing the parents' job. Try to, you know, compensate what we didn't have as a kid, you know. Yeah. It's a kind of like self-healing process, you know, and I really enjoyed it, and I think, and then we have to start looking for books all the time. And back at that time in Hong Kong, of course, the online bookstore was not that. I think Amazon's there, but it costs a lot for shipping. No book depository back at that time. So shipping was costly. It was always too costly to order book from overseas. So we have to look for the local bookstores, and the selection and the book collections in Hong Kong for kids was not that great. It's either the books that everybody's talked about, you know, the hip ones, the popular ones, are almost always linked with Disney characters or movies affiliated. So if you want to find some classic books that is really good, or, you know, some people would like to recommend to kids, it's very it's educational, but it's not like the most popular ones. You can't find it in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So I was really upset, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I can try something, you know, do it online, reduce my cost, and, you know, introduce to others. There must be some other parents who want books like I do. So that's how I started.
Yeah. Wow. And what was it like? Like, how do you even begin to think of opening a bookstore? Like, what were the steps, the challenges?
I was lucky because I actually have a backup plan. I joined my family business after divorce. I know that where I will go to, and we have a warehouse, so I don't have to worry about
Storage.
where I put the stock. And I was thinking about starting small, and we did that. So we contact some publishers where we can find in Hong Kong. I visited them, and we placed, and I was lucky to they let us place small orders at the beginning. And you just build up your connections. Once the first publishers will open an account with you, then you can contact others, even overseas ones. They are very willing to open accounts with you.
Yeah. What were the biggest challenges that you faced in the early days?
Of course, about stocks, because once you have accumulated stocks, then you will have an issue, and books get those little bugs, and then the pages will get yellow, and it's difficult to keep if you want to sell them as new books.
Yeah.
And that's the stock issues that's pretty frustrating sometimes.
Yeah.
And then
And the margins were quite low as well, right, for it?
very low, very low. And my selling point back then myself was to sell books at a very reasonable price. I always sell lower than what the normal chain stores are selling, because of course they have to pay overheads, and I pay lower overheads. So I'm selling them at a lower price. And we have steady followers, and we have good business during book fairs in Hong Kong too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we run the business for a good few years until the trend change. Yeah.
And until the what, sorry?
Until the trend, the book ordering from, free book from overseas changed. So we have to adapt to it. Yeah.
All right. And I understand that running this children's book business also taught you about effective parenting. Am I correct?
That was another different. There was different things.
Mm.
I joined that kind of core effective parenting workshops that was introduced by the Hillary's kindergartens. I remember it was kind of like a core effective parenting training, and then I joined that. I think that was right after I quit the force, so that I can attend those trainings. That was pretty intensive, a few full day courses.
Wow.
At that time, I was just thinking, oh, it was pretty new to me, parenting course, what kind of thing was that? And I was really curious. And I remember the principals was highly recommending that. So I paid and attended the course, and it was kind of life-changing for me as a parent too.
Yeah. What were the
Yeah.
core lessons?
Yeah, it's about active listening. I think a lot of people have heard about that term right now. You have to go to the level of the kids when you talk to her, and just practice empathy with your kid. Pretty much that. And I remember one analogy that they mentioned that I totally got it. And I think I will try that with you and see how you think. She said, okay, you parents always ask kids to share the toys, right? When your kid is holding on to her doll or her Iron Man toy, and when friends comes, you will always ask them to share the most precious toy. But what if I asked you to share your most precious diamond ring to your friend? And that was, that immediately you think, oh, that was a bit.
I don't think so.
I don't think you will share your most precious diamond ring with you. And it clicked to me, I got it. I immediately got it and said, oh, that's right. Asking your kid to share their most precious toy is tough for them, and that brought me to my early childhood days as well. You have a lot of things to do, and you will immediately be able to see things differently and see things in the kids' eyes too.
And I think at the same time you were running this, you also launched your own blog, joeymom.com. So how did that come about, the idea of running a blog?
That was later years after the online bookstore. After I shut down the bookstores, I changed the page to Joey Mom, because I have accumulated I think I have a lot to say, and I have a lot of following from the bookstore as well. And we all parents, we just, we did that naturally already, have a lot of parenting talks, or sharing informations. And I think I should just carry on doing that. And we share a lot of experiences, and my customers always ask me questions. So I just want to leverage that and use that channel or page to keep talking to them.
Yeah. And how important is it, do you think, for mothers to have these online mom communities?
It was very helpful. It was very helpful because you know, and everyone, you don't have any experience at all until you have your first kid. Every month is a new month, right? No matter how much books you have, how many books you have read, how many things you have seen, it's nothing to compare with when you have experienced yourself. And it totally changed everything, your lifestyle, how you know, what time you sleep, what time you get up. It's it's so different. And then you have to, there's so many things coming up in your mind, not the thing that you are seeing every day. But for parents, especially when you have kids and in high stressful place like Hong Kong or Singapore, South Korea, I'm sure that schooling as well, you know, you have to pre-plan for so many years, and that was really stressful. And at that time, I think it would just very naturally come to you that you have to seek for help, seek helps, and go for online forums, you know, ask for suggestions, advices, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about briefly before was that when Hillary was 10, that she actually had difficulty in school. And I wonder, you know, because it's this topic of bullying, and it's something that parents are aware of, but we never know how to deal with it. So I wonder, for you, how do you first discover it happening, and how do you deal with it?
Actually, it didn't happen at 10. She experienced the first bullying when she was year 4. When she was year 4, it was like
8 years
8.
old.
Yeah. And what happened was, she was a different kind of person. She was very different from other girly, you know, girl type of kids. And then they would love to talk about clothes, even at year 10, even at 8 years old. You know, she was always with her books, which, you know, as parent, you raised her up to love books, and that is exactly the way you want her to be, and you don't want her to change a single bit. But at that point, do you want to persuade her to change, to adapt to other people? I don't think so. But that was some dilemma that we have to face. And when she was 8, she started to experience that. And she was in international schools where those kids, they don't like to wear jackets or coats, even during cold days. I don't know whether you've seen that. And they would like to wear short sleeves, even at 8 degrees.
Hong Kong is
And
cold sometimes.
yeah, and Hillary she is so afraid of cold. She wears thick jackets all the time, and so she was always being picked on. I remember she didn't care too much because that time she was pretty young still. I remember going to the school camp with her that time as a volunteer, as a mom volunteer. And that girl group teased her in front of me. And I was thinking, hey, you know, it's not too nice. But I didn't say a word. So at the end, I emailed the teacher. I laid out everything factually, what happened, you know, what actually Hillary said to me and what I have witnessed to the teacher. And the teacher handled well that time when she was 8. The teacher was able to talk to both sides, you know, and tell them how to respect each other's choice. That was a success story. That was a success case. And those girls, although I could see that they was not very happy about, you know, being you know, told off by the teacher, but they still, you know, kind of control themselves and let her be. So it was a successful episode. So she carried on studying those school, and those girls let her off. But when she moved on from primary to secondary school, and that was the year where problems were really, you know, surfacing, and we couldn't help.
Yeah.
And eventually pulled her out from school. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the tipping point that led you to the decision that I will pull her out?
It lasts for a few months. For us, it was like hell. It was like so long. But I know that for many kids, that so many parents that I've talked to after our situations being published, so a lot of people came to us. I know that a lot of people have experienced these for years, and I honestly couldn't imagine how could they endure so many years of torture. For Hillary herself, it started at the first month of school in secondary school. She went to a school trip. That time I couldn't go with her to Thailand, and it was a planned activities for school so that the kids get together to get in another environment so that they can unite, know each other better in a more 24/7 situation. But that was when it was when things happened. She again, she was with her books all the time, and the girls were listening to music, chatting, and she was not interested, and they were kind of didn't like that. It starting to have the teenager thing where the girls, they would want to have some power, power group. They want to attract you in, and if you don't want to be with them, you're out. You will be alienated. You'll be picked on. That was exactly how it happened. And she was bringing her journal with her, which she always brought the journal when she was not with us, and she would write everything down. And then this is just her. She loved to show us when she's back. And then this is what I do, all these things. And she was always writing her journal, and they hated it. And then when Hillary was out swimming with her friend, that group of girls read her journal, in which she mentioned something that she was not very satisfied with those group. And they have an argument, and they said, "Oh, why did you say so in this?" And Hillary said, "Whoa, this is my journal. Do you know what is privacy?" And they, well, of course, that is how it happened. So when they came back to school, things got worse, because that group are the popular girl type, where they so everybody is kind of attracted to them. They are, very spotty, beautiful girls, always, very chatty, that type. And so even her old friends started to dump her, refused to talk to her, and she had no one to turn to. When she sat down for lunch, everybody just left the table. That started to go all those, you're seeing things differently. When she is the person who thrives in school. She has always been. She loves learning, and the teacher loves her. But that's also causing her pain because the teachers always ask her questions, and those kids hate it. And when she answered questions, they will snare at her, glared at her. And so she began to shut up. She began to, just shut down and losing her confidence as well. And she complained to me at the beginning. She complained to me, and I remember before Christmas, I arranged a meeting with her class teacher and told her everything like I did when she was 8. But they didn't manage it well. They told off the girls, and they make things worse. Those girls are crying, and everybody and say, "Oh, Hillary, how could you do this?" And then things got worse. And her lockers being ransacked, the lock being broken and ransacked, and soon she didn't even talk to me. She didn't tell me anything about school. I didn't know. I didn't even know what happened. I just noticed. I still blame myself for not noticing it, because I realized when I picked her up from school, she was always the last one came out, always the last of the whole secondary school, which I didn't notice why. She didn't tell me. I asked, "Oh, why are you so late?" And she just shrugged, and it didn't came across to me that she intentionally did that. It was only after she left school, she told me she hid in the toilet. So to let everybody left school before she came out, and because she don't want to be the only person to go to left school, where they're always in group, and when they see you, they will just stay away from you, you know. She hate that. That's why she hid in the toilet. Typical.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know. And but that's months passed, and then one day I remember going to a clinic with her, and she was sitting next to me very closely for a long time. And then I noticed there was a bald patch on her head, a bald patch, this big, no hair there. I just wondered what happened. And because just 2-3 days ago, I remember she went to an event and I combed her hair, and her hair was intact back then, nothing like that. Just 2 days afterwards, I saw a patch. There's something really wrong with it. And I cornered her. I asked her for the whole afternoon. I wouldn't let her off without telling me. And she broke down and told me that she was really experiencing a lot of all-out bullying at school. And that was because of stress. She pulled her hair out. When she was in class, she was always pulling her hair. And that's how the bald patch came. So I was only by then that I realized how serious it was. And I got everything out from her, and I promised her, I didn't pull her out right then. I still talk to the school, I still arrange meetings, and I talk to her that I will do whatever I can to help you. You know, you still go to school and still see whether you can manage, and see how with us, with the teachers and yourself, could we, you know, revive the situations and see how, if you can experience a better school life. But as expected, it wasn't doing her any good, telling the teacher. And she started to have nightmares. She didn't want to go to school. She always late. It wasn't like that. She was always looking forward to school, you know, when she was young, before secondary school. She was really happy fully. And during that time, she was another person. She didn't want to comb her hair. She always let her hair cover her face. And she had nightmare. I saw sweats on her body all the time. And I remember towards the very last days, I had to go to school and tell her I will be there at your school facilities all day. I will be staying at the coffee shop. If you need me, call me. I will be here with you within 10 minutes. But just try, still go and try. So it was how it works for few, I think 1-2 weeks. And then one day I picked her up from school, and she told me it was the day where with the drama class assessment. And I asked her, hey, how was the assessment go? And she told me, that was because the assessment was the drama kind of performance, totally arranged by the group of kids, a group of students. The teacher had no involvement in it. So on the planning of the script, everything, the students would do it. So it was a totally good project. She said they totally changed my script from everybody have a fair turn to me saying nothing. I was playing a role of a fool, where I would just trip on a banana peel and die and have nothing to say. And I said, what did you do? You know, did you protest? Did you tell the teacher? She said, no point doing that. And I don't want to affect other kids. I don't want to affect other students because this is assessment. And she just told me that she had totally gave up. She had gave up on herself. That incident told me. And I just couldn't take it. That night, I talked to my husband and said, well, let's just pull her out from school. Let her have a break. I want her intact, you know, body and soul. So that was how we pulled her out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thank you, firstly, so much for sharing all that. I mean, it's really heartbreaking to see what happened to her. I mean, she's such a wonderful, bright, happy girl. I just spoke to her. She's amazing. And I was wondering, because a lot of listeners are young moms, and obviously they're concerned, where do I send my kids, and all these warning signs, and I'm wondering for them, do you have any advice in terms of any signs that they should look out for, any advice for them?
Yeah, totally. Now thinking back, if your kids have a change of attitude towards school, especially from very happily looking forward to school to not wanting to go, it is a sign. And when they complain to you, I think at the beginning they will always talk to the parents. Don't just brush it off, or just keep saying it. You must be one of the problems here. Keep listening to them, assessing the situations, be supportive, and don't make it in a way that they will stop talking to you. I think in our case, it's because we told the teachers and it made things worse. And that was the tipping point where she stopped talking, because she didn't want the situation to get any worse.
Yeah. But I mean, like, how can you as parents not do anything as well, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think by keep talking to your kids, keep chatting with them. It is very important. The relationship, the regional relationship between you and the kid, it's of course it's very important. They have total trust on you. And I think you have to give your kids some kind of confidence and trust and support to let them know that you are always there. You will help them solve whatever problem they see.
Yeah.
And I think in situations like that, it is good to introduce another trusted adults to your kid too, because for them it's just the parents is always the one who is saying these things. It's not credible enough for them. Sometimes they need to see another person that they look up to, or someone they really trust, an adult, to tell them, or to be a supportive adult as well. Because at that time, it's very lucky for her to have a mentor, a minus mentor, her business mentor. He also told her that, this is not your whole world. School is of course very important to you right now, that you are in here 10 hours a day and you are seeing this as your whole world. But there is a real world out there. And you're with me right now in the real world, and we love you. You will see good people out there, and then you will see like-minded people. You will meet your like-minded people. The problems now you have is short term.
Yeah.
And you can overcome this. Yeah, this is I'm really grateful to that mentor too.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, like, I was so amazed as I was researching, also talking to Hillary, and she was saying that the startup community is so supportive, so embracing, and that's so encouraging to hear, that it doesn't matter how old you are, it's all about your passion and what you want to put into it. That is so incredible. Wow. So yeah, I mean, she's facing all these things, but then she also found something that really excited her, which was the whole entrepreneurial competition. And so obviously the whole thing that started was you sending them off, her and Alexis, to a Chinese summer camp, and then she came back and then she saw this competition. How do you feel when she came to you and said, I want to join this thing? Like, does your family have some kind of entrepreneurial background as well?
No, actually it was AIA's initiative.
Yeah.
Because one of my friend worked in it, and she told me, oh, there was this thing. There was this entrepreneur, initiative from my friend's department. Do you want to send Hillary there? Because she was within that age range. The only reason was it's totally free, and they send the kids to all different places, including Facebook, Citibank. Go in there and to see what's being, is being run. Normally it's not accessible to the public, right? And AIA will spend a lot of time teaching the kids all these different things. You will see 3D models, these cool things. I said, oh, this is pretty cool. So I asked Hillary whether you want to go. And she said, oh, yes, I really want to. I want to go with my friends. Originally, they want to go as a group. But then her two other friends dropped off at the very last, at the very last moment, because you have to come up with an idea in order to enter that competition, it's the selecting process. You have to pitch your business idea. So I don't know whether the friends maybe is too troublesome, they just dropped off at the end. So
Yeah, but what's
every
amazing?
other
Yeah. Yeah, it was
yeah,
amazing for me is that when they dropped out, she had 3 hours to come up with something new, and she did it. That is
yes.
so incredible. So
Yeah, I was like, oh, you've got to, the deadline is coming up. You have to come up with something, otherwise you can't join. And just think, whatever, And then she said, oh, what about? I remember that the Chinese camp experience. If I could bring that online, it will help everyone. That was where the idea came from.
yeah, so she submitted it, she got in, she started pitching. Do you remember that whole experience? I'm sure you were with her the whole time, just making sure she was okay. So what was your perspective of that entire experience?
Yeah, I was there the whole time, but I also let her do it her own way. So that's why I remember her first pitch when she went to EIA to pitch with all the other so many teams of kids. Her PowerPoint is full of words. It's definitely a no right now. Full of words, very colorful lines, colorful words. But that's how she did it. She held a cue card. I told her, if you can't remember, maybe you write down your points on cue cards. So she had cue cards. She have PowerPoint full of words, and she did that. And then it was, but she did it with passion. Very excitable. She's always excitable when she speaks, and then she got in.
That's amazing. Wow. And so she was like doing it herself. She wanted to do a cue card. She wanted to do the presentation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you like teaching her how to do public speaking?
Not at that time, not during the first pitch, no. But towards the very end of the competition, they had a chance to pitch their idea then to the whole Hong Kong startup community. It was a big event because it was the first Hong Kong startup event run by the government, and they invited Elon Musk there. Because of Elon Musk, of course, everybody went to that event. So it was like over 1,000 people in the central government office. And the kids, of course, it's just like dessert kind of thing, just to fill the empty spots. But I trained her up. I have to say, I prepared for her long before that day. I want her to do it. I want her to do it in a way that she will be proud of herself. Because in her school, they didn't have many of these opportunities to work very hard towards one thing. It is always very relaxed and easy projects. They don't really have the opportunity to spend a lot of time to be really hardworking on one thing, work on one thing. They don't even have examinations at that time. So I want her to work on something and feel proud of herself. And so that's why we did it. We made professional, now not many words, PowerPoint. I trained her up on how to speak without any cue cards, because it's just like a 3-4 minutes presentation. So she memorized the whole thing. We practiced it well, and she made epic work there, an epic job there. And then everybody was still talking about that presentation. And that was the presentation that brought the mentor to her.
That's amazing. Yeah, I actually found that presentation on YouTube, and I was amazed. Like, she was so poised, so confident, spoke so clearly, but her presentation slides didn't work. Like, she was trying to click her and it didn't work,
Yeah.
And I was amazed she didn't freak out. She was just like, oh, I guess I just don't have to, I can use it and I'll just go on.
Yeah.
Which is such a testimony to her ability to speak. Wow.
Yes. I was like sweating, downstage. And I think you have to give thanks to her practice too, because she really memorized her speech inside out. So even when things didn't work, she can keep going on without the slides. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. So after that, lots of people came and wanted to speak with her. How do you, because I mean, she's still a child, right? She's only 10 years. So how do you determine who was a good person to speak with? Because you would probably be thinking, why do they want to speak with her, right? And who to sieve out, maybe. How do you think about it?
Actually, a lot of people just want to speak with her then.
Okay.
Honestly, not a lot of people would like to spend a lot of their personal time to with a kid. But for those who really wants to, we that time we normally say yes. We just structure, schedule after school times for coffee with them or visit their office. Also want Hillary to see different things too, to meet different people, to learn from them too. So that's how we got into different people and her mentor. The first meeting with her mentor was so memorable. They spent hours at Starbucks where he taught her everything of a startup, from how to do marketing, how to do research, to IPO. And for a person, so he's a CEO of a big company, to talk to a 10-year-old kid, it is so funny to watch. As for me, there I was learning to see him talking to her so patiently, and that Hillary was not nodding, really absorbing like a sponge. It's very funny to watch. And then I think that the relationship deepening starting from there, because I think he got the satisfaction from the kid too, giving him response of really learning from him and taking in the advice. It is really, it's amazing experience to watch too.
Yeah, and I mean, she was only 10, so was it her first time hearing all these things like IPO marketing? And was she fully understanding what it was all about?
She asked, "But what is IPO?" She asked, and he explained. And then
Yeah.
he also kind of like teaching her really deep things. The first day taught her not to be afraid to lose. Starts up 90% of them will fail. You will fail. You just expect to fail, then you won't be afraid to be failing.
Yeah.
And that was so important, because a lot of people are, just think of an idea. I always have that idea. You will see so many people talking about, oh, I know that, I've thought about that, but you never did it. Why? Because you're afraid of losing face. You're afraid of, failing publicly. But if you can go past that, then there are whole different things for you to try.
So she had that conversation with the mentor, and I think she went back and she was excited. She wanted to start a company for that.
Yeah.
What were you feeling? Like, were you like nervous, excited for her?
It was natural that at the time it's not just like the next thing to do. Okay, you have a meeting with this mentor and he suggested you to find 30 parents, 30 kids to talk about your ideas. It is not big deal. Okay, let's do this. All right, how to set up I have my Facebook account and I can help you set up a group on how to reach out to people. And when people really respond to you, it's really exciting. It's not just people from Hong Kong. She had people from India, people from outside of Hong Kong doing this marketing test with her.
How was she
So
reaching out to these people?
they trust her to have them on Facebook.
Oh.
Just we set up a Facebook page and then write these things and share, asking friends to share, and then they just respond.
Wow.
And very soon you had enough people to try, and then they started with having just Skype calls, testing out how kids respond to each other. She arranged different kids who don't know each other and try how and see how they interact with each other. That's how it started.
Wow. And so she was doing all this. So what were you doing behind the scenes to help her at the time?
I was there. I was there all the time to just, observe, and of course I will take down notes, of what the mentor said. And I will say, oh, the mentor asked you to read this book. Have you read this book? Or I will talk to her and see how much she has taken in. I will also check with her. But she, at that time, it is something very interesting and funny to her. So she didn't really need much of me to ask her to do it. She will do it herself.
It's brilliant. And I think around that time she was also homeschooling as well. So just jumping back briefly. Was she
That was not, no, she was still
quite
in
yet.
primary school. She was still in
I think. And then like
primary school.
she transitioned
Yeah.
back, she transitioned into homeschooling for like 3 months. And we didn't deal with this, but like what led you to decide to keep her in that homeschool experience?
We pulled her out from school in February, I remember.
Mm,
So that
mm,
was the month. It is kind of embarrassing time, and because it's like halfway of the academic year. It is difficult for school to take in kids at that time. So when we approached other, when once we put her out, it was just natural for us to ask for her to transfer to other schools, right? Homeschooling was not in my mind at all. It's not an option because in Hong Kong is really not popular,
yeah.
and a lot of people have the perception that it is illegal because in the law it says kids should go to school except for exceptional situations. This is actually in law. So for us, we're just thinking it is by law you need to go to school. So we arranged for her to transfer to other schools, but it was not the time that they will take in new students. You have to wait until September. You can come for the interviews, you can come for the exams, but even if you want to take you in, it will be the next school term. So during that gap months, I would say, I have to arrange for something for her. And then it came a teacher. She had a startup where we met her before at those startup events. She had just start running an alternative schooling startup where she wants to run project-based learning and in real life situations where she will bring kids out to learn to see the world instead of having just classroom classes. And I think we have nothing to lose. And I want her to be out there instead of stalking at home, feeling that I am, because I'm an outcast, I have to stay home during these months. That was not in my, that's not I want. And I think it was actually the best choice. So we sent her to that teacher, and just within days I saw the original Hillary. She was so happy, talking about all the things she sees. She started to research, get all the books she wants, and I think we didn't look back afterwards.
That's amazing. And I think that wasn't, at the same time, that wasn't a convention, that difficult decision as well, right? Because I think your family was objecting to that as well. But you were just,
No,
you knew this was best for her.
yeah, yeah. I just don't care. I don't care. Of course, our parents should be like totally surprised because Hillary was so good in school. She was always, top of the class. They expect her to keep on doing that and don't go the traditional path. To be out of school is something, our parents won't understand. And they even cried, in front of me and saying that you're ruining her, you're ruining her. But I know what I'm doing. We know what we're doing. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, yeah. And just to give people context, I read that Hong Kong schooling is very competitive. Like people with unborn children are filling out application forms as well. It's like very hard just to even get to school, let alone you taking deliberately a child out of the schooling system.
Yes. Yeah, we're talking about those top schools. Yes, some of them you have to fill out the form before the child was born.
My goodness, I cannot even imagine the stress.
Yes.
Yeah. So in any
Yeah.
event, she
And
had, sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, you kind of like static a
sorry,
bit.
is it broken up?
Yeah, it was a bit broken up.
Mm.
Okay. So anyway, so we're moving back. But in any event, the old Hillary resurfaced. This was her thing. And she was also running this whole little, like this company that was going to be minus. Hello?
Hi. Yes.
Okay, yes. So in that 6 to 7 months, I understand that's the period you took to do testing before you got a programmer to come on board to launch this. What was it like? Do you remember those days?
Yes. It was we spent a good few months testing and, coming up with ideas, following what the books suggest to do. I just want her to learn. As parents at that time, I just want her to get out there, meet different people and learn. And because she is a kid, she really followed the textbook case, just like a textbook case. I'm just watching her like a textbook case. She just do everything that they recommend. They just follow the books, and then she doesn't have a second thought. For us, kind of like you have a lot of thinking, bothering you. That's why you procrastinate, right? For her, it's just like, okay, I do 1, 2, 3 today, and I do 4, 5, 6 the other day. It's nothing to bother her, and that progress her very well. So at one point, we have to come and say, okay, we have done everything. We have this drafted out, and we need money to do this app. And can you invest money to find a developer to do this? And I think for me, it's not a difficult decision, because it's not like a lot of money. Because I don't know, maybe people knowing Hong Kong situations, you spend a lot of money for sending them to international school and all those extra curriculums anyway.
It's like
So if I
150,000,
can
right, a year or something. Hello? You broke up.
some curriculum.
Sorry, you broke up again.
Oh,
Hello?
sorry. Is it better now?
Okay, yes, right.
Hello?
Why don't I repeat myself? So I
Yeah.
understand that it's like the schooling itself, a year is like $150,000 just to send a child, right?
You're talking about US or
Or in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong dollar? Oh, no more than that. For her, that year is already 200,000 a year.
Wow.
200,000 a year. And also other curriculums, after school curriculums. So if I can cut down some extra school classes, probably can make up for the app development. So for us, it's not a difficult decision. I want her to carry on learning, to have this experience. I know that it will be priceless for her.
Yeah. And she told me earlier that she was also going and just pitching and pitching and pitching. So you were with her the whole time. Were you ever worried that she was overworking herself, that she needed a break and be a child?
Oh, no worry. She will let me know. Because I don't want to do this one. And then we will say no. We don't say yes to everything. No, she won't do it if she doesn't want to.
And are there any particular moments that stuck with you that really impacted you?
Yes. That's how the dynamic between us shift. I think this is, as a parent, sometimes it is a happy and sad situation. You want to bring them up to be independent person, but then when they say, okay, mom, I don't need you, I can do it myself, it's kind of sad. I see that all this time, and at the beginning I have to train her, like for all the public speaking at the beginning, like the first one I told you, she have to memorize every single word. So even if there is any situations, she can handle it because she will memorize it inside out, backward and forward. But then later, if you want to be a real good public speaker, this is not the way, right? You need to memorize the points instead of verbatim, and you will have to adapt to different kind of speech. Sometimes you have panel speaking. She had a lot of invitations to be panel speakers, where it's kind of like impromptu talks. You can't prepare for it. But to my surprise, she was at her best when she speak as a panel speaker. She just speak her mind. It was free. She doesn't need to think too much, and she was at her best. And those are the things that I don't need to help her at all. But for prepared speech, she started to have keynote speaking invitations. The speech, the duration of the presentation started from 5 to 10 to 15 to 30 minutes. It was tough. And I want to train her up, so she never use cue cards anymore. She always memorizes her speech. Then you have to adapt and change. You have to learn and read a lot of books on how public speakers do it, how real good public speakers do it. And they memorize by points. They memorize the flow. So you will be natural. You can speak out your mind. You can even change a little bit to adapt to situations, adapt to the day, to adapt to the audience, so you can be yourself and be a good speaker. So I helped her, and that was a long process. I remember at the very beginning, at one point I told her, this time I'm not going to help you. You draft your speech. You draft your speech and you do it. She was kind of like, okay, I can do it, don't worry. And she didn't spend much time on it. But when she spoke on stage, she stumped. I remember she kind of like stopped a little. She kind of like forgot her line, the next point for a bit, and then she knew it. That time was the only time that she felt she could have prepared better. And after that presentation, she never told me not to prep with her, or to, at least right now, after preparation,
Sorry, you are breaking up again.
we will talk about it. She will do it once in front of me, and then I will give her feedback, and then she will. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it fine now?
Your
Is it better now?
Okay, now it's better. Sorry. Do you mind repeating? So you said that after that incident, she would never.
Oh, so after that little incident, she would always prepare very well, and she will do all her preparation job, and she will come to me, and then she will do it once in front of me, and I will give her feedback, because it's always good to have someone telling you how to do it, and then she will change her speech and perfect her speech. And I remember the last time when she went to Dubai and gave a 25-minute speech. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I was so touched. She didn't miss a single bit, and she did a really good job, and I was really proud. The last time, it was this February.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually, I was so blown away. I just could not believe that this was just a 15-year-old girl. It's incredible.
But you know what? She spent a long time. She spent a lot of time preparing too. Even in Dubai, all the time when she was out there, even at the bus stop, even when we were touring, she was practicing.
Yeah. So that really is the key, isn't it? It's just you have to be well prepared no matter what.
Yeah.
And so what was your role as you were doing this? Like, clearly she is driven, she is the face, she has no fear talking to all these grown-ups. So how were you supporting her? Or was your role in all this?
I don't take the credit, honestly. It was her. Yeah. I did all I can. If she wants some support, I think emotional support is the best thing I could do for her. When she feel tired, when she feel exhausted, we will just always chill out, just drop everything, she likes to go fishing with her grandpa, then we will take her to during weekends to do fishing, and these things, although you may see it seems like taking a lot of time, but if you structure your time well, you can still have a lot of me time. She still read a lot of books. So for her, it's easy. It's very easy to manage, just whenever she said, I want that book, you just buy that book for her. It's the best thing for her.
It's incredible. And I understand that Alexis also joined the company and was her first employee. So how did it all come about?
The brother is just naturally, she become part of us. And it is very funny to see the dynamics between them. And the brother always actually, he brought up a lot of good ideas. Even some of our mission statements, some of the points are, brought up by the brother. Because he was there all the time. He knew our stuff inside out too.
Yeah.
And sometimes when Hilary's preparing for her speech, he will give feedback. And because the brother is a very different person, his personality is, he is really outgoing. He's totally different from Hilary. So he will be, on a lot of our videos.
I've noticed he's very, very happy to just speak in front of a video by himself.
Yes.
It's incredible. And I wonder, like, as a parent as well, you'd be concerned, like, there are kids, they're appearing all over social media. Is privacy something that you're concerned about?
This is something that we always we have discussion about this, and because because of the minus nature of the app, we concern about privacy and safety of kids. This is already in our conversations all the time. So for them, we know that they may be the face of the app of the business, but we will never you will never see her personal information or her phone, all these things. Whenever even for all the social media accounts, I co-manage with them. And they knew it, they totally knew it. And actually something happened before. Her previous ex-school, some kids came to try to bully her at the minus account, saying, really, humiliating things. And I remember I messaged that person personally and saying that, actually I'm the mom. And I don't think this is the way to go, and if you don't stop doing this, I'm going to call you out. And that the boy just apologized and delete everything.
That's just terrible to hear that. Yeah, but it's okay because she is doing amazing. She is thriving. And I wonder how she's balancing all that with homeschooling and just learning and growing since she is still in school. Like, how do you even come up with that whole plan for them?
Yeah, but I want to add one more thing too. It's
Oh,
not only negative stuff that comes out from all these negative comments or haters. I think this is also important for me as a parent to in my role to teach them how to respond to all these haters. Because unless you are hiding behind it all the time, whether it's now or when you become an adult, like when you start up your own podcast, there will always be some negative comments, right? Or people discouraging you. It will just happen sooner or later. So I think this is a good time for me to be there with her to face this and see things and discuss how to handle. And I can be there right now. When you see this negative comments, then we can discuss about it and how you feel about it. And I think she's pretty strong. She's really strong and positive about all these hater things. It doesn't bother her at all. And I think I am happy to be with her at this moment to deal with all these things right now, instead of when she was all alone later.
yeah, that's so encouraging to hear. I wonder if you're looking back, right? Is there anything you would have done differently to help her with this journey?
You mean in minus or bullying or
The
dealing with
bullying, yeah, bullying, and just like negative comments and people trying to bring her down.
Oh, I think for her personally, now that she's learned, is of course we celebrate individuality. We celebrate uniqueness of you. You shouldn't change a single bit of yourself. But when you see people who have different views with you, you don't need to have judgment on whether you're right or whether they are right? It's okay for everyone to feel differently. At that point, I think Hillary, and she agreed to, maybe she was thinking, I think these things are waste of time. The thing that I'm doing, I like what I'm doing. You guys are wasting your time. You don't need to feel it that way, because that people may be able to see them, they don't like it. And that kind of conflicts that cause all these things. Who do you think you are? You think you're above us? That kind of thinking. And I think naturally for her, she probably will make people think that she's looking down and being condescending. But this is very tough for 11, 12-year-old. And if I can do it differently, I hope I can, break it down into more understandable terms to talk to her, to teach her how to deal with these social situations. Sometimes even if you don't like what they're doing, if you don't agree with other people, you can still, accept it and just be friendly to everyone. Sometimes you can listen to them without agreeing. It is not easy, it is not easy at all, even for us as adults. But if I can teach her that, I don't know whether the situations will be different. The bullying things will go away. I don't know.
Yeah. And what about the kind of learnings and lessons? Like, since you're not in a official school system, how do you plan out what she needs to learn? Or do you just let her follow what she's interested in?
Yeah. I think we let it go two ways. After pulling out from school, we have a lot of thinking about what education is, what school is, and what do you need to learn, right? And what we finally we settled with is learning is different from schooling, right? You can learn whatever. You can go for whatever you like to see, read. Oh, okay, go whatever how much what level you want to. You just read whatever you like. But for schooling or for at the education system, for formal one, is to whether you want to go through that system to follow suit to take an undergraduate degree, or for example, if you want to go through that path and get that certificate to get that accreditation, then you probably have to follow the system to take the exams. Then you need to follow the rule and the game. You need to study the exams. You can't tell me that you resent it. You think it is a waste of time, because that is how you play the game. If you need to follow that journey to take that at the end, then you need to follow that. So she is kind of, she's settled with herself. That's why she's taking the GCSE exams the coming year in order to get to, because she has a certain goal in her mind, what subjects she wants to study in universities that she really interested in. She have already read a lot of books about it. She couldn't stop talking about it. So she's happy with her schooling educations and also her own learning.
Yeah. And so what is your advice for any parent who's seeking to take their kid out of like official school system and create their own for their kids?
I think for them, they have to also, there are a few things they must think it through before making the decision. First is actually, it takes you, the parents, the adult, way lot more time and energy and planning than sending your kid to a school, because the school have a system to take care of their responsibility from you. If you want to decentralize that and then take the responsibility yourselves, then you need to plan so many things, not just the academic part. Don't forget there are the physical activity parts, the leisure parts, and how to balance everything, and what kind of subjects or general knowledge you want the kid to keep up with, right? You're not necessarily all the subjects in school, but whatever your kids may want to. And I also have seen that for many unschooling families, they may have they may be interested in one particular thing, but they totally neglected many other stuffs. So the kids kind of like, sometimes when you talk to them, especially maybe for some, they don't have any math sense at all, for example. And that can be dangerous if you want your kids to pursue whatever and accreditation later on in life. And it caused some resentment in them. I could see that in for some kids. But for some families, that's why you need to reverse engineer your way of thinking for homeschooling. You need to first know the goal, where your kids are, where they want to be, and then work your way back and see what kind of path you should follow through. Although you don't go to school, what kind of like exams they need to take in order to go to whatever school, or what kind of design school, even engineer school, even whatever it is that your kids may want to go. But the earlier you take them out, it is even more difficult, because they were still so young, they don't know where they want to be. And you need a lot of work, work in progress, and keep on being flexible and keep on doing your research and knowing exactly and don't miss all the deadlines, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of work for the parents. And if you want to do that and you think you can do that, totally. I mean, I'm
Sorry, you broke up again.
all for it. I think is who knows your kids more than you, who have the best, who, oh sorry, till now, can you see me now? It's okay?
Okay, now I can see you. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh no.
Where was I?
So if you want to take them out for homeschooling, and then
Okay. I mean, if you have decided to take your kids out and you are willing to put in all those efforts and time, I think you can beat all school. Who knows the kids more than you, right? Or the parents who have the best interest of your kids than the parents. Yeah, I'm over it.
And there's one thing that I suppose people are most concerned about, which is the social aspect. I mean, in school, you naturally have all your classmates, but coming out, you have to be more deliberate about it. So how do you go about thinking and making sure they have interaction with their peers?
Yeah, we were very cautious for Hillary's case at the beginning because she had the social issue before. So we plan to have a lot of meetups with other social homeschool kids, so homeschool family and kids. And they are so loving. They know, they are very careful about this. And because they're used to mix up with kids with different ages, because you can't plan for all 10 years old together, right? They already have families of different age of kids, they just, whoever that have time will come together, and then you don't know who we're going to see. And they are very accepting, they are all very friendly. So we were very lucky to be able to connect with them to this community. And so Hillary was in good hands at the beginning after leaving school. So it was very encouraging for me to see her connected with them immediately. I remember that time that they have a hiking together, and the girls were already, holding hands, wrapping their arms around her shoulders. And I was so glad. I kept on taking photos behind them.
That's wonderful to hear.
And also, I mean, there are many groups that the kids can join, like scouts, like Girl Guides. Hillary joined Girl Guides before, and yeah, we kept looking for opportunities and activities like this.
Yeah. And how did Alexis take to this whole staying at home, learning from home as well?
Yeah, for my son, it's a little different because he is a very social person. He couldn't stop talking and he's enjoyed his friends so much. So after he left school, I still connect with her old schoolmates' parents all the time. I still text them all the time. So we arrange, they called him to their parties still. Even now, after he left school for so many years, they have play days, they have we have sleepovers all the time. And Alexis met with new friends easily. And I'm glad that he doesn't lose that.
For sure. And is there any common misconception about homeschooling that you like to clear for people?
Yeah, I mean, the most misconception is about losing the social element. That homeschool kids are, because of the name, they are trapped at home. I mean, this is all up to you. For us, at the very first year, where we really are free at home to do whatever we want and whatever classes they took, I took them out all the time. We joined up with other homeschool families. We went to all the museums, all the things, and times where there were no people at all. And we enjoyed all the private tours so well. And it was great. It was great. We went to all different places where I haven't been in Hong Kong. We went to I remember a bakery where the baker spent the whole morning teaching these group of homeschool kids on how the scientific, the science behind, fermented bread, all these stuff. And they got hands-on things on baking, all that morning was so good. I don't see any science class so interesting before.
And I think that you videoed these kind of field trips on the Minor Miners YouTube as well, so people can go and just see what it's like for all these kids to have their own field trips. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So, I mean, obviously now we're recording this during COVID, and I'm wondering how has that impacted your life and your family, and also Minor Minus, the running of it.
Yeah. I mean, for miners, it has affected us quite a bit because our IT partner, the developers, is in Canada, and one of the key team members, his family's got COVID. So we have to totally look. The whole project stalled for a while because we are developing the version 2. But there's something that everybody have. You just have to face it. Deal with it, and it's no big loss. You just have to delay the launch of the second version. So we have to kept delaying it, and but we are close to testing the beta version of it.
That's exciting.
But then, yeah, and for us, family wise, I think it's just they have to deal with boredom. they can't they can't go out to the center to have lessons, and Hillary loves enjoying meeting the teachers, but luckily they still have online classes, and lacking the physical activities. It's major. So we ask them to walk the dog, at least go downstairs to walk the dog. Yeah, but I mean, I think I kept on telling them this is something that many years later, when you look back, it will be, a great experience. No one ever had this for 100 years.
Never. It is surreal,
And
even now, to think about it.
yeah, and I think to think of the positive side that we have so much time together, that you won't be. I told many parents, you have been talking about working from home all these years. You beg for typhoon to be staying at home. Now you have all the time at home. Just think of the positive side. Spend more time with the kid. And now you don't want to see the kid. You want to stay.
That's funny. And then I'm wondering, just before we close, that if there is any important truth for you that few people agree with you.
I think for a lot of people, they think follow your dream is a cheesy word to say, or a cheesy thing to say. They might think, oh, it's fancy, it's good to say, one have to deal with, face your reality, whatever is practical. But in my experience over 40 years of life, actually follow your dream is the most practical thing to do.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
It's real. I mean, this is the thing that you are really passionate in, that you are capable in, that you will, die to do, that naturally you should do well in. And for me, it is the case. It is the case that it's always at the back of my mind that I like kids. Even when I was young, I remember playing with my cousins. All the kids love me. They don't want to go home. They will cry like hell when they leave my place. And I enjoy so much when I was a kid. I was just be myself, and I couldn't understand the meaning of it. As a police, what. But
Totally
then when I have
different.
my own, yeah, when I have my own kids, when I saw kids, I I remember one should really look inside and find out what is the thing that you're really good at, that you never want to let it go. That is something you really want to pursue.
And what kind of where do you see your future, if you will? Do you have any plans for the future for yourself?
Myself, I want to keep my blog alive. I want to do more about on Joey Mom. Yeah, I want to, because I don't know, it's not to brag about how great my experience was. I just want to keep sharing, keep exchanging experiences, because this is at this moment. If I'm afraid of failing, or don't, because I don't know where she'll go. I don't know where Minor Minus will be, or how they come about. It's not like for a lot of people, they will write a book, or they will say something once their kids graduated from Harvard, whatever, right? But I mean, for me, I would really love to, at this moment, I'm still raising the kids. I want to go through this journey with so many more other parents.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much, Joey, for this time. I normally close with these questions, which is firstly, do you feel that you have found your why?
I think I have.
Yeah.
I think I have.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how will you define that why?
I am glad that in this recent years, I found Stoicism, and it speaks to me so well. I read the book. It's my Bible every morning. I read the page every morning. I copy one piece every morning, and that's how I live my life. It is just make things simple. You live the day, make the fullest of it, and make it simple. And that's how you live it.
And what kind of legacy would you want to leave behind?
I just want people who know me to feel that I am exerting positive energy.
Yeah. And what do you think are the most important qualities for someone to be successful in life?
Oh, as I mentioned before, all the successful people that I have come into in my life or I have read, it's just two things that I have mentioned before. They don't complain. They look at what they have in hand, deal with what they can control, and make it simple.
I love how practical that is. So good. And where can people go to connect with you and find out more about you and what Minor Minus is doing?
Oh, they can find us on Facebook and Instagram at our handles Minor Minus and Joey Mum, JOEYMUM.
Thank you so much, Joey, for your time. I have loved our conversation.
No, thank you, Linga.